So you're looking to get your English fluency up right, and you want solid advice fast.
Well, that's exactly why we're here. Today, we're digging into a discussion from David and Emily. You might know them from Spoken English in 40 Days. We're focusing on day 39. They share some really practical tips there for getting your speaking skills moving faster. Our mission, basically, is to pull out the best bits, the most useful stuff from what they said so you can actually use it, like today.
Yeah, what I find really useful about their approach is how actionable it is. They don't just talk theory, they give you things you can literally start doing right away. They've clearly pinpointed where learners can, make real changes.
Okay, let's jump into that first tip then. It's think in English. Now that sounds kind of simple on the surface, maybe, but it's actually a fundamental shift in how you interact with the language internally. Oh, absolutely. It's huge. So many learners, and it's totally natural. They think first in their own language, and then they translate it piece by piece into English in their head. But that process, it's a delay. It slows everything down when you try to actually speak. David and Emily are saying, let's try and skip that whole translation part.
Right. They had that example, didn't they?
Yeah.
Instead of thinking in Hindi, yeah, mera nashta hai, the aim is just to have the English thought pop up. This is my breakfast. It sounds small, but it illustrates that direct mental path you're trying to build.
Exactly. And their advice to practice this with really simple everyday stuff around you, that's spot on. Just look around. I'm walking now. It's sunny today. Or I need some water. Just narrating your immediate reality in English inside your head. By doing that consistently, you start building this, well, let's call it mental fluency. English starts becoming the default for those basic thoughts.
Makes sense. So you're training your brain to grab the English directly, not take that detour through your native language first, which naturally should make speaking feel quicker and smoother down the line.
From a cognitive angle, it's just more efficient, isn't it? Fewer steps in the process. Thinking in English consistently, even for these tiny things, it's like you're rewiring your brain a bit. You're prioritizing the English words and how they fit together.
Okay, tip number 2 then moves from the internal thinking to actually saying things. Speak every day. And the interesting part here is they stress you don't actually need someone else to talk to for this.
Yes, and that's such a relief for a lot of people, I think. Sometimes finding a speaking partner feels like a huge hurdle, it stops people from practicing. But they make the point that just practicing on your own consistently can build up so much fluency and confidence.
They suggest things like, okay, talking to yourself in the mirror, which might feel a bit weird at first maybe, or just describing your day out loud as you go. They even mentioned recording yourself, which, listening back can be a bit cringy sometimes.
Yeah, it can be.
But it's super useful for hearing what you actually sound like.
It really makes you think, though.
Yeah.
How often do you actually say English sentences out loud when you're alone? These exercises, they just carve out that time. You're practicing making the sentences, getting your mouth, your tongue used to forming the sounds.
Yeah, and they gave simple examples like, today I went to the market, or I'm feeling tired but happy, just basic stuff. But doing it daily really adds up. And crucially, they say fluency first, perfection later. Don't get hung up on mistakes at this stage.
That is so important early on, that fear of messing up. It can just freeze you. This tip is all about pushing past that. Just get the words out, even if they aren't perfect. That's how you build that flow, that confidence.
All right, tip 3. This one sounds quite active. The shadowing technique.
Yes, shadowing. It's actually a really powerful method, great for working on pronunciation, the rhythm of English, the intonation. Basically, you listen to a native speaker and you try to repeat what they say almost exactly as they say it, like you're their shadow or echo.
So you'd grab a short audio clip, maybe from a podcast or YouTube or a movie.
Yep, short clips work best usually.
And you play a sentence, pause it, and then say it back, trying to match them.
Exactly. And the key thing David and Emily mentioned is don't just copy the words. Pay attention to their tone, where they put the stress, how fast they're talking. You're trying to capture the music of the language, too.
Okay, so listen, pause, repeat, focusing on sound and speed. They say this helps pronunciation, gets you into the natural rhythm, and then makes you feel more confident in actual conversations. That makes sense.
It really engages your brain differently, You're not just passively listening. You're actively hearing the sounds and immediately trying to reproduce them. It strengthens those connections needed for both understanding and speaking.
Okay, tip number 4 is about how we learn vocabulary. They say learn in phrases. not just single words.
Yes, this is a big one. It seems intuitive when you think about it. I mean, knowing individual words is obviously necessary, but we don't really speak in single words, do we? Words get their real meaning, their usefulness from the other words they hang out with, the common patterns.
They use hungry as the example, right? Instead of just memorizing hungry, you learn, I'm feeling hungry, or maybe, are you hungry? Complete usable chunks.
Exactly. That gives you context straight away. You see how the word actually works in a sentence people use.
And that helps in a couple of ways, doesn't it? First, your own speaking sounds more natural because you're using common pairings.
Spot on.
And second, it actually helps you remember the word better because it's tied to a situation, a meaning.
Definitely. It anchors the word. You're not just collecting isolated dictionary entries in your head.
Yeah, you're building up a toolkit of ready-to-go phrases. Seems much more efficient for actually speaking.
Absolutely. It's about learning functional language, bits you can slot straight into a conversation.
Okay, the fifth and final tip. This one felt a bit counterintuitive, maybe. Listen more than you speak.
Yeah, it can seem a bit paradoxical, can't it? How does listening improve speaking? But think about it. Good listening comprehension is the foundation for everything else. You can't really respond effectively if you haven't understood properly first.
Right. And they suggest setting aside time each day, even just like 15 minutes or so, to actively listen to English, podcasts, audiobooks, movies.
And actively is the key word there. It's not just having it on in the background like noise. It means really tuning in. How do speakers link words together? That schwa sound. How do questions sound different? How does their tone show emotion?
They explain that doing this regularly trains your ear, basically. Your brain starts to pick up the natural rhythm, the flow of real spoken English. You sort of absorb these subtle things that maybe aren't explicitly taught in grammar books.
And if you connect that back to the first tip, thinking in English, well, hearing lots of natural English helps build that internal model of how the language actually sounds and works, which then makes it easier for you to produce thoughts in English that sound, well, natural.
Okay, so let's just do a super quick recap of those 5 tips from David and Emily. 1, think directly in English. 2, speak every single day, even if it's just to yourself. 3, use that shadowing technique. 4, learn vocabulary and phrases, not isolated words. And 5, listen more. Really focus on listening. Like I said, individually maybe they sound simple, but doing them together consistently, that's where the boost comes from.
Exactly. It's a whole package, really. It addresses the thinking part, the practice part, the input part, a well-rounded approach.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
Getting more fluent in English, it definitely takes consistent work, no magic wand, unfortunately. But if you consciously try to weave these practices into your routine, these little shifts, you should start feeling more confident and sounding more natural.
Absolutely. And maybe something for you to think about after this. Just consider those 5 techniques again. Which one feels like the easiest one for you to start with? Like right now, today, how could you fit just that one thing into your day? Think about how just actively listening a bit more or consciously trying that think in English thing.